Hi, this is Val Snellgrove. I'm the president of the NYSJ organization, which is the governing organization for all of the judges across New York State. I'll be taking you through a module today that incorporates stunts, tosses, and pyramids, the indicator reference sheet, the majority grids, the cheer and overall performance, as well as the expectations around skill sheets. In this module, we will be taking a look at the new information for this year, the basket toss information, the rubrics, the use of front bases, the scoring difficulty for stunts, tosses, and pyramids, the use of averaging of scores to obtain the difficulty score, the scoring of the cheer portion of the routine and the overall portion of the routine. We'll take a look at the 2017-2018 building score sheet, majority grid, and the indicator checkmark reference sheet, which is new for this year, as well as the skill sheet. New this year, stunts, tosses, and pyramids will be viewed cumulatively throughout the entire routine to identify the correct score. This differs from past years in that the building judge focused on the sequence that had the greatest score value and viewed the rest of the stunts throughout the routine for execution only. Also new this year, teams must perform 3 different skills for both stunts and pyramids throughout the routine. Remember that as long as it is clear to the judge that there is a pyramid sequence occurring, proximity is what will determine that the stunts and dismounts being performed are part of the pyramid sequence and not a standalone stunt. This may include the stunt behind or in front of the pyramid structure. Some coaches utilize a creative into stunts as the opening of their pyramid. These may appear to be dismounts, but are also being utilized as transitions to the rest of the pyramid. This will be counted as part of the pyramid and score and not part of the stunt score. There are 3 ranges this year: basic, intermediate, and advanced. Range does not matter other than letting you know where the skills that you have chosen fall. You may choose to select skills from any range. You can use the progression rubric like a menu, choosing the skills that best suit your routine and team. Sprinkles are added to the starting point value prior to averaging the 3 skill scores that will serve as the difficulty score. The judges do this before averaging to give the correct score for a particular skill and not as an overall sprinkle score. We want to give credit to each individual skill you perform. Teams may not use all tosses or all dismounts to achieve their score. Skills need to be from the various categories of variations, transitions, inversions, tosses, and dismounts. When your team chooses to do basket tosses as one of your sequences, the tosses must be performed during the same time frame, not randomly placed throughout the routine. The tosses may be rippled or contagious, but must be all the exact same skill in majority. For example, all kick full tosses. If you do not perform the same skill, it cannot be counted as one of your 3 skills. Tosses that are not being counted for majority can be scored for the purpose of execution. This would include the random single toss that you may include to enhance your choreography. Note that the rubrics are now based upon progressions similar to the NYSJ progression sheets. The rubrics will not show the base score for each bulleted item. However, you now have access to a progression sheet for reference, and that will have the beginning skill value based upon majority. The NYSJ progression sheets will have the point values for each skill that will show the beginning value for majority, more than majority, and full team. Note that the scores are lower on the stunt rubric and parts of the pyramid rubric this year. This is so when sprinkles are added for more than majority up to full team, and when teams do stunts without front bases, that there is room to slide your scores up. There has been a good deal of discussion about the number of bases and assessing the correct score. Teams with less bases will garner additional decimal points based on some stunts without front bases. This could be just one stunt without a front base, and your team would get an additional 0.2 on that skill. If most of the stunt groups that are going up are without a front base, then you're going to get an additional 0.4. And if all of the stunt groups that are going up do not have a front base, you'll get an additional 6. More risk means more reward. Teams meeting majority but using front bases would enter at the beginning point value assigned to that stunt with no additional sprinkle points. Remember that majority is the number of team members divided by 4. That's the number of members in a stunt group. If a team is getting to majority by using a front base, they are going to still hit majority, but that skill is not as difficult as doing that stunt without a front base. So in essence, they are using 5 members instead of 4 members to put up that stunt. Therefore, the team will receive additional decimal points if they are not using front bases. What happens if your team performs skills from different ranges? The judge will focus only on the score assigned to the skill and not worry if the team is performing skills from different ranges. They then will give additional sprinkle points for doing stunts without front bases, formerly known as front spots, before averaging their scores to find the final difficulty score. Coaches will use the progression rubric as a menu, picking the skills that you want to utilize in your routine, with no penalty from choosing skills from different ranges. There has been a lot of discussion about number of members on a team. And therefore, this year, there will be a minimum requirement for all teams to have 2 stunt groups. This will be difficult for some teams that have less than 7 members. And so they may have to get creative during doing a single base stunt, for example. But we really want to encourage coaches to make sure that they are including the number of team members that reflect the number of people that try out for their teams or they invite to try out for teams. The cheer committee really is interested in increasing the number of members on the team versus the decrease that we have been seeing over the last couple of years. We think that coaches are really cognizant of the rubrics, and perhaps that has influenced the number of team members that they're putting on their team. We don't think it really means that the interest in cheerleading has waned, but we kind of feel like one has fed the other, in that the rubrics may be driving coaches into thinking about or rethinking about how many they take on a team to be able to max out their scores on the rubrics. So we are encouraging you as coaches prior to tryouts to really try to get as many people out for your tryouts as possible and increase the size on your teams. So for this year, there is not a limit of the least number of members that can be on a team, but as you can see, there is a minimum of 2 stunt groups. So that does signal to you that you should have at least 8 members on your team. If you aren't able to get 8 members, you're not going to get a 0. So let's take you through what's going to happen if there are less than 2 stunt groups. So there's going to be a minimum requirement for all teams to have 2 stunt groups. If a team does not have 2 stunt groups, the judge will evaluate the 3 required skills that that team does using the progression sheet as normal. We will find the corresponding entry stunt value. We will not add any sprinkle points. We're just going to use that entry stunt value listed first on our progression sheet. We're going to add up those 3 skill values as we would for any teams that are in majority, and then we're going to divide by 3. Next, we're going to divide that total by 2. This will give teams who are under 18 members to still compete and receive a difficulty score, but will be preventing teams from doing 1 stunt group and attaining the same score as teams who put up 2, 3, 4, or more stunt groups doing the same skills. If a team does no stunts again, they would receive a 0. We actually saw this at state last year where a team came in with 5 team members and they scored quite well because they didn't have to do anything with synchronization, and they were able to do 1 skill and get the same score as somebody who was putting up 3, 4, or 5 stunt groups. So we had to relook at how we are scoring teams across the continuum, and really wanting to encourage more membership on teams in New York State. When is majority and full team the same? If a team's majority is the same as full team, the team will get the score for full team and not majority. For example, if a team has 8 members and puts up 2 stunt groups, that is the number of groups they need to hit majority. That team cannot put up additional stunt groups because of the size of their team. Therefore, they will get the score listed for full team instead of the majority, which is lower. What if your team only does 1 or 2 skills? This could be a choreography error on your part, so make sure that you are checking your entire choreography from beginning to end, that you have 3 different skills for stunts and 3 different skills in your pyramid. Or this may happen when flyers fall during a sequence and the skill is out of majority. This will apply to both stunts, tosses, and pyramids. The judges will look at the skill or skills the team performs in majority. We will find the skill entry point value. We will not give additional sprinkle points for less bases. We will add the skill point values together and divide that total by 3. So here's an example. A team only completes 2 skills for a variety of reasons. A 9.1 and a 9.5 gives us an 18.6. We're going to divide that by 3. And your difficulty score will be a 6.2. You only did 2 skills of the 3 required skills. That is why we are still dividing by 3, and you're not getting a 0. So there's the silver lining. A 9.5 means that only 1 skill was witnessed by the judge, and so it's going to be divided by 3 because it's only one of the skills of the 3 that were required that are observed. And so the difficulty score is a 3.2 versus receiving a 0. The only time zeros are going to be given is if a team does not do any stunts or any pyramid. Stunt scoring. Judges will look at what the team is performing. They look to see if the skill is in majority, more than majority, or being performed with the full team. They look to see if the team is using front bases in any of their stunt groups. The judge records if the team is using front spots or bases on all of their stunts, some of their stunts, or not using front bases on any of their stunts. For some of their stunts, there would be an additional 0.2 added to that skill score. For most of the stunts, not using front bases would be an additional 0.4, and if all of the stunts are not using front bases, the team would receive an additional 0.6 for that skill. The judge adds up the 3 scores together and divides that total by 3. That will be the difficulty score you will see on your score sheet. The only difference for pyramid scoring is that the judges are going to look to see if the team has 75% of the team minimally involved in the skill. They will also look for 3 different skills being performed in the pyramid section. Looking again if there are going to be front bases or not, the judge will then take the 3 highest scores, add those 3 scores together, and divide by 3. That will give the difficulty score for pyramids. A new structure occurs after any transition. Transitions must end at the extended level, not at the prep level, for the structure to be counted. A transition can occur when the flyer's feet leave the hands of the bases, so switch-ups and tick-tocks are examples of this, or when the stunt moves up or down, as in bump downs and press-ups. These are just some of the examples of transitions. Non-release transitions, such as bump downs or press-ups, are when a top person is moved from one stunt to another while maintaining physical contact with original bases, new base or a post. And release transitions or release pyramids transitions are when a top person changes from one stunt to another, including loading positions during a temporary loss of physical contact with his or her bases. These are defined in the National Federation of High School Spirit Rules book. If a dismount skill is being used within the pyramid, it can be counted as a transition rather than as a dismount for stunts. Because it's being used perhaps as a creative in, it is part of the pyramid sequence. Remember that body positions are no longer part of the pyramid rubric. Teams can certainly use them within their structures, but you're going to focus on the structure changes, the transitions, releases, and dismounts. Be sure to look at the pyramid portion of the majority grid, as this is going to be different than the stunt majority grid. You're looking at the number of members, 75% of the team minimally, involved in the pyramid versus the number of stunt groups. Dismounts must still be a majority to count as a skill. 75% of a team must be involved in the pyramid section. We should not see several people standing around. If the team throws in a single stunt group as one of their skills, the team will get credit for that skill as long as there is 75% of the team involved in the pyramid sequence at that point. If less than 75% of the team is involved, that skill will not count. Teams using 75% or 100% of the team and using multiple stunt groups will get more credit. Coaches can choose to use front spots to get to the 75% or 100% of the team involved. They may not gain extra points for less front bases, but gain sprinkles for more than one stunt group doing the skill. So for both single and double base stunts, only one is needed to gain score towards one of the three required skills, as long as there is 75% minimally of their team involved in that sequence. In pyramids, multiple or all refers to multiple being more than one, and all referring to, for example, all flyers inside and out. This is very confusing for coaches and judges alike. So be sure you understand the skill that you are observing and what the entry-level score is. If the team is not performing the skill as listed, you will not give credit for it even if it's listed on the skill sheet. Remember that the skill sheets do not go back to the coaches after the competition, regardless of if you are asked. Even if a team is using one single-based stunt in their pyramid, they will get the appropriate score for that skill. It does not matter how many the team uses. This is a different paradigm than last year, where we required those stunts to be in majority. Don't forget to focus on the load into the stunt to be sure you are assigning the correct score based upon assisted, the flyer has help entering the stunt, or unassisted, the base and the flyer are the only persons involved in the load. If there is a hands-on front base or side base, the stunt is not considered a single-based stunt. Also look on the pyramid progression sheet to make sure that you're seeing where there are unbraced and braced single base stunts. The unbraced obviously will be harder for the team to complete. So what we mean is that if it is a single base and is assisted or unassisted and there are no bracers helping that stunt go up, then that's going to be in the advanced range. If the stunt is being braced and the flyer is being helped up into that position, either assisted or unassisted, into a single base, it's going to be in the intermediate part of the pyramid progression sheet. So please check that out as you are looking at your progression sheet. We have updated the score sheets. Judge number 1 will be stunts and cheer. Judge number 2 will be pyramids and overall performance. Judge number 3 will be tumbling and dance. And judge number 4 will be jumps, transitions, formations, and motions. Judges will be responsible to the skills on their score sheet, the category they are scoring, and the indicators for that category. Each judge is responsible for one area of the routine that must be judged from the beginning to the end, which means that they will be engaged throughout the entire routine. There will be 4 different score sheets handed into the tabulator and then given back to the coaches. Judges will still sit next to their partner. The pyramid judge will still help the stunts judge time the cheer and check for front bases. The stunt judge will help the pyramid judge with structures, number of members involved, and front bases. The jump judge will help the tumbling judge count tumbling, and the tumbling judge will help with jumps. Judges will have each other's back, but are really responsible for their own category and their own score sheet. If there is an emergency and only 2 or 3 of the 4 panel judges show up, the panel will revert to the original score sheets that will remain on our website for that purpose. The majority grids should be very self-explanatory. They are really not much different than last year, but you're going to notice that on this particular sheet, you're going to have your multi-based stunts and your single-based stunts, and then your tumbling. So just be aware that that was for formatting purposes only, even though they're on different score sheets and being judged by different judges. Please take the time to go through these to make sure that you are hitting majority, or if you want to bump those scores up, remember that you have an opportunity to do that with those entry scores if you put up more than majority or full team stunts, and the fact that if they are being done without bases, you're going to bump your scores up even further before they are averaged. The majority grid for pyramids is different than the stunts majority grid. In pyramids, you must have 75% of your team involved in the pyramid for it to count. Please note this is a major difference from stunts. Stunts are the number of stunt groups. Pyramid is based upon the number of members involved in the pyramid section. It is our expectation that all teams will use the skill sheets to fill out the information regarding their routine. For building, we are asking that the coaches record the number of stunts and how many have front spots or bases. Please make sure that as you start to look through your routine, that you write down the start time of a skill. Remember, these are skills and not sequences, so every single skill that your team does, you are going to write it down. If you need additional room, you may have to go onto the back of your page. Just make sure that you write a note to that. Remember for pyramids that we are looking for the number of team members in the pyramid. So you're going to tell us the skill time, and you're going to tell us if there are front bases being used. You also need to record the time that your cheer starts and the time that your cheer ends. Remember, if you are close to 30 seconds, please make sure that you are adding probably a little bit more time to your cheer, that's so you don't run into any kind of issue with being less than 30 seconds, because you will get a 0. The downtime start and the downtime end, remember, we will not be judging that. We cannot impress upon you how important it is for you to be truthful with your skill sheet. We are only going to score what we observe as judges. If you are telling us that you are doing, for example, Baja fulls, those are 7.5, and you have 5 of them, and actually one of them is just a front non-twisting dismount, but you have it strategically placed in your choreography, so it's very difficult for us to actually see it. We are not going to give you credit for that because we can't see it, number one, and we see the 4, not the 5. So please be careful that you are being accurate. Once we continue to see a pattern emerging, that information does go back to the cheer committee rep, and you may be contacted about that. We had that happen a couple of times last year, that we are looking at the skill sheets and they're absolutely, obviously not what we're seeing on the floor. Now, there can be a couple of things that happen that we recognize as judges, and that is that something happens during warm-up. And so the routine that we're observing is not what's written down on the sheet. But it is really incumbent upon the coaches to make sure that they are being accurate and truthful with these skills, and that you have a good knowledge of where those skills are, so you're not surprised by your scores. So please make sure that you have these up to date. If you need to, you can make these back into a Word document, or you can use Adobe to write right on the skill sheets. They need to be legible and neat when you hand them in, and make sure that you're constantly updating them as changes occur for your routine from week to week or competition to competition. The NISFA Cheer Committee and the NICE-J are looking forward to the 2017-2018 seasons. We hope that this presentation has answered some of your questions. If you have general questions about anything you heard in this module, you can submit them to the questions link below the modules, and they will be answered in the webinar following your question submission. There will be multiple question and answer webinars posted throughout the year. A list of webinar dates and question submission deadlines for each of these webinars can also be found below the modules. Good luck, and we hope that you have a successful season.